parent's choice. This is a matter of mental health for our children, as they need to see people smile and smile back at them. They learn social cues by learning to read people's facial expressions. They thrive in environments where they're allowed to play and socialize with others. Transmission of COVID-19 amongst children in schools and daycares is very rare. In fact, according to published data by the CDC, 99.99815% of children who contract COVID survive. Despite this, the CDC issued COVID guidance calling for a host of extreme mitigation measures. These measures are harmful and unnecessary. By adopting the "we were just following orders" mentality, government officials, school administrators, and many others have created an atmosphere that is not safe for our children. These draconian measures have fostered an atmosphere where children have become afraid of themselves, other humans, and their innate environment. Sadly, many are now convinced that the world is a scary place. Countless parents have expressed concerns that current policies are seriously harming children and interfering with their normal childhood development. Yet things remain unchanged. My child is here, actually she's next to speak, I think she signed in after me, and she'd like to discuss more. But she's come home every day last year with headaches, crying, sad, hates school. She used to love school, hates school, doesn't want to go. Would rather go to work with me during the day. And I drive like 300 miles a day, so I really don't think that that's something she truly wants to do. She has personally attended YMCA summer camp all summer without issue, no masks. In light of the Fauci emails being released stating exactly that the mask is more for people that are infected, not to spread it, and that the store-bought masks are completely ineffective altogether as the virus can pass through them, I am calling for the school board to make the right decision and unmask our children for the 2021-2022 school year. The masks have done nothing but a complete disservice to our children. Many of them, who have attended summer camps and daycares throughout this entire summer break, have had no issues. With this, I implore you to unmask our children, or we as parents, remember we voted you in, we will get every registered voter, we will organize them, we will list them, and we are going to campaign viciously to have the board removed from office either by voting you out at the next election or taking action to recall you unless masks are removed. Thank you.
Yeah, next is Olivia Ball, right?
She's getting scared. Can I just say what she wanted to say? It's like, yeah, okay, 2 minutes, 2 seconds. She wanted to let you know that she comes home every day with headaches, that her eyes hurt, masks make her ears hurt. She wants to see her teachers' faces and the bright faces of her friends. That's all she wanted to say. Thank you.
Next individual is Darren Champenois. Champenois, okay.
Thank you for having me. I'm not here to be combative or confrontational. In fact, I have a lot of accolades, words of encouragement, positive things to say about this school board. But I do have a lot of bullet points that I want to cover. Before the great face of Oz shows up on the 3-minute screen and tells me to sit down and shut up, I figure I better probably get to the ones I think are most important first. We are not teaching CRT. We are teaching a social emotional learning curriculum, or SEL. It's not a lie to say that we are not teaching CRT because that is not a curriculum in itself, it's an ideology. However, CRT is in fact a component of SEL. SEL is the vehicle that brings it into our classroom. It may not specifically be called CRT, but it uses the same terms and ideologies. Things like equity over equality and a focus on differences resulting from race and cultural backgrounds. It creates division. And for those that disagree with me, just look at what's happening around school board meetings in the country. It quickly becomes self-evident. I have done extensive research. I've listened to countless hours of opinions from both educators and parents on both sides of the issue, and while I think that much of it is well-intentioned, it is, in my opinion, misguided. I will say that through my research that my eyes have been opened up and that some of my opinions about the subject have been swayed. I do now believe that there is a place for CRT. That place would be institutions of higher learning at a time when minds have matured enough to actually think critically, not K through 12. There are positive aspects to social emotional learning as well. I just feel that the same goals and outcomes can be achieved by teaching from a perspective of unity rather than one which intentionally or not promotes division. There is a compromise that can be reached if we try. I'm going to be honest, and I'm going to say I'm a little bit nervous speaking on such a hot button topic, because the most common rebuttal that seems to come from those who support CRT is that you're just a racist. While I can't speak for everyone, I can say that I am not, and I believe that the overwhelming majority are not as well. In fact, there are a lot of black parents that I have watched at other school board meetings who are passionately opposed as well. Are we going to call them racist too? I firmly believe that our past should be taught with brutal honesty and that it should be acknowledged that horrible atrocities have been committed. We should also embrace Black History Month and educate and honor those who have and continue to have a positive impact to create necessary change. I also think it's extremely important that we recognize that we have made great progress, but that there are still issues that need to be addressed. I believe that we can create a curriculum that addresses these issues without divisions that create judgment and perpetuate stereotypes. A curriculum that focuses more heavily on things that we all have in common. Why am I passionate about this? Quite frankly, I'm gravely concerned for this country. There are far too many divisions. There are external forces that, whether intentional or not, are dividing this country, and we are doing it to ourselves. I would like to see the next generation recognize it and hopefully stop the bleeding before we quickly become the ununited states of America. To our teachers, if my child knows intimate details about your personal political beliefs, it is my opinion you have failed as an educator. That is not education, that is an attempt at indoctrination. Please be careful. To the parents, please recognize some of the limitations that this board is under because of state regulations, guidelines, and oversights. Do not be hesitant to contact your state representatives with your concerns. It only takes a moment to send an email. And most importantly, please involve yourself in your child's education. Talk to them daily so that you will be well informed of what's happening in this school.
I'm sorry, I'm gonna have to have you.
Can I please have 30 seconds, please? To the board, I appreciate the time that you have allowed me to speak and the time that you invest in our children. I appreciate your best efforts to try to remain transparent. I understand that many times your hands are tied and you have to be very careful about what you say for risk of jeopardizing state funding, becoming a target for criticism, or even jeopardizing your career. Sometimes it can be an intimidating and thankless job, and I appreciate your dedication. Thank you for letting me speak.
Next individual is Chris Snedeker.
Hello again. I'm here because I was fairly disturbed at some of the behaviors that I saw from parents at the last meeting. And I felt like a parent needed to come and be an advocate for the teachers in this district. We have very highly educated, highly qualified teachers, and they need to be treated like professionals or they won't be here anymore. The United States and the state of Indiana has a huge teacher shortage because of behaviors like this. Because districts start allowing parents to come in and bully teachers. Yes, parents are allowed to disagree. Yes, parents are allowed to question things. But please do not allow parents to bully these teachers, or we will lose them. And we will not be able to get good, qualified teachers back into this district. Teachers talk. That's all.
Next individual is Roxanne Nolan.
Good evening, board. My subject is CRT. I am totally against it, totally. It is ideology. That means it is an idea. You cannot teach an idea to children. You are molding their minds, and it is a division thing. I don't care how you say it, it's bad. And I called the governor's office, and I found out you have a standard. Your standard is to teach math, history, and so on, science, but it doesn't say anything about putting that in our school. Nothing. And it is up to the school, I found out, that if they want to put it in, they can. But I'm saying it's very, very dangerous. You spend a lot of time with children, and you speak to them. Anything that you are teaching, they're going to absorb. And that is wrong. Now, I'm going to get off the subject because the gentleman out there was real good in explaining different things and stuff. I think he did an excellent job. The other thing is the masks. They don't do any good. The germs go right through those masks. It upsets the children. You don't raise children with a mask on their face and 6 feet of, these are children. And the COVID percentage on children is extremely low, extremely. And if they get sick, a cold, a sneeze, whatever, they're on their way home. Because people automatically think, oh God, they probably have COVID. Now, the other thing, that vaccine is, it can't be done. I totally disagree. The government is mandating that vaccine. This is under emergency use authorization, and they are still testing, and we're the test people. They're doing it to us. Then they're finding out what's going on, and it is killing people. And why? You get the vaccine, you cover your mouth, you have a car, and you can still get COVID. When they first came out with this, they said, get the vaccine and you won't get COVID. Now they changed to get the vaccine and we'll do 2, and then later on a booster. What are they putting in you that you still get the virus? What good is that doing? You're building the herd immunity anyways. Once you have COVID, you have an immune system to it. But it seems like they're saying, well, it's coming back. Time's up. Well, thank you, Lord. And thank you.
Next individual is Gina Hathaway Vergara.
Aside from a couple of Zoom meetings, board meetings being held in the middle school. Especially after finding out that after the board meeting will start, the doors are locked and nobody else can come in. People have to work, people can't get here, people can't see what's going on. I know there's several friends of mine who have said they wish they could come, but they can't find a babysitter. They have little kids who might disturb the meeting and they don't want to do that. The other thing I wanted to say is, it's kind of ironic when we have kids being sent home for possible symptoms of COVID. These are probably kids who should have been staying home in the first place, so they didn't pass the cold on to classmates or the flu or whatever else was going around during the year. Having
home and being able to stay home has been nice in the past year.
So, that was it. Thank you. Gina, just to let you know, as far as getting the meetings put online, it is something that we've discussed as a board. It's just something that kind of takes a lot. We have to make sure we're online, because there's kind of a lot into it, so. To make sure.
If I could get a Wi-Fi signal in here, I'd be streaming it right now.
But it is something that we are looking into and are going to try and get done.
Okay, I appreciate that, thank you.
Next individual is Rachel Stewart.
Hi, my name is Rachel Stewart, and I have a son in the Tri-Creek School Corporation. Before I start, I just do want to say, I do thank all of the teachers in the corporation for what they've had to go through this last year with the masks and all of that. You guys are rock stars. I was a teacher for 8 years, and I don't know that I can appreciate you, and I never once have I been in a meeting and seen anybody bullying the teachers. So, thank you, and, okay. I'm very nervous. I'm here today to fight for my son's rights and his freedoms, and ask that you continue to uphold the optional mask rule from the summer and roll it over into the 21-22 school year. You need to keep them optional and allow us parents to make the choice for our family. It is a known fact that the mouth is the dirtiest part on the human body, and last year our children were subjected to these breeding grounds for germs daily. My son, who was only 5 at the time, started developing acne on his face. 5 years old, and he was dealing with acne. Not to mention, he was kept home on several occasions for a common cold, but yet masks work. I encourage you to read what it says on a mask box. It specifically says it does not protect against COVID-19 or other viruses and contaminants. We need to get these ridiculous petri dishes off of our kids' faces and let them breathe. Let's get back to learning and letting them be kids instead of having them worry about a mask all day and whether or not it is on properly. I'm also asking that you do not mandate the vaccine and again allow parents to make that decision. As I'm sure you've heard many times by now, that the vaccine is still in an EUA state and not FDA approved. And according to the CDC VAERS site, more than 148,000 people have reported adverse effects from the experimental vaccine. And actually Harvard estimates that that's only 1% of the total cases that get reported. If the vaccine was as safe as they claim, then people would not have to be bribed, coerced, or shamed into getting it. As of right now, they don't have a vaccine for the younger children, but I can tell you for certain my son will not be getting this experimental shot when it does become available. And I'll be damned if I'm going to allow another person or persons to segregate my child with these ridiculous masks because he didn't get the shot. If the vaccine works, then why are those who have received it now being asked to wear a mask again? And just a little FYI, we now know that those who have been vaccinated are the super spreaders of this new variant. I will continue to fight for my child as long as I'm breathing, and I want to make sure that he is treated just as his fellow classmates. Vaccine or no vaccine, mask or no mask, we are the decision makers for our children, our families, and our health. Not the government, not the doctors, not the school boards. Let the teachers teach, let us parents parent, and let our kids be kids.
Next individual is Amy Ganowski.
Thank you for allowing me to speak this evening. I have a couple of questions. One of my questions is the agenda for the school board meeting available online before the meeting? Okay, so then I can dig deeper because I couldn't find it, so thank you. I know last time I was here, well, as I was speaking, I was, that stuff. And I that masks show with this deadly virus and this very spreadable virus.
They show empathy, care, and responsibility for our community and our loved ones.
With the Delta rise and making the COVID numbers rise, what's the positivity rate that is supposed to be, what is it gonna be in order for us to say kids that come to school, kids in staff, they have to wear masks? Again, we have wearing masks because of this virus, shows empathy, care, and responsibility for everyone around us.
Ma'am, I'm sorry, but we cannot hear you. Can you please speak up?
Thank you very much for your mask. Batteries on the side. How are we now? Is this better? Oh. Should I?
Go ahead. Start over, yes.
Okay, thank you. I had already had one question answered, so I won't go over that again. I'm sure some of you have heard that in my belief and in my family, we believe that masks do show empathy, care, and responsibility for our community and our families, including our school community. I am wondering what the positivity rate has to be in order for our schools to make the masks mandatory. For me, it's not about the death rate of COVID when it comes to children. It's because they can still get sick, they can bring it home, just like with any other illnesses. But this is a deadly virus. This is a virus that causes lots of long-term issues in many people, including myself if I were to catch it. I also wonder, what about the ages of the kids that, if families choose to do so, the kids that are not eligible for the vaccine, how are they protected from our public health crisis right now? I have one child eligible, I have one child not eligible. And that really concerns me because when the masks are when the masks are optional, my kid, by wearing a mask, has the right to protect everybody's children, which is wonderful. But what about protecting mine? I do expect that when my kids go to school, that they will be as safe as possible. All kids bring home sicknesses and illnesses, and I know that that's a fact. I know that. But this is nothing like we've seen before in modern times. More mutations are possible if we don't try to stop it. And it concerns me. It concerns me greatly. I also do want to say how awesome the teachers were last year. I've loved all the teachers that my children have had since we came here. My kids did stay home last year, and
One of them was here at the middle school, and one of them was still at Oak Hill, and Mrs. Edwards is the only name I can come up with, because Becky Becker. They were wonderful, absolutely wonderful. So thank you to teachers and staff, and I hope that we can come up with something that will protect them. Thank you.
Next individual is Krista Mathis.
I live in Lowell, and I was wondering, is anybody allowed to come to the school board meeting from any community and speak, or is it just Lowell residents?
Anybody can come for statement.
Oh, because I think from Crown Point, it could only be people from Crown Point. So I was just, yeah, they have to specifically say an address. So I was just wondering, because I find it, weird that someone would come to our community and try to impose masks on our children, that's all. I was also wondering if masks became mandated, if you guys are set up for e-learning for the students that won't be returning wearing a mask. What happens to those students that refuse a mask? Are you guys going to provide e-learning for them? That's all. It's just kind of something that popped in my head because my children aren't being masked. I got 2 and 3 grades.
Next item. Consent agenda.
Thank you, everyone, for
I'd like to have a motion to approve the minutes for the meeting held on Thursday, July 8th, 2021. Motion second, any further discussion? All in favor, signify by saying aye. Opposed, same. 2, approve the minutes of the special meeting held on Thursday, July 22nd, 2021. Motion second, any further discussion? All in favor, signify by saying aye. Opposed, same. Number 3, approve payroll and claims. Motion second, any further discussion? All in favor, signify by saying aye. Opposed. The personnel report. Approve the personnel report dated Tuesday, August 3rd, 2021. Motion second, any further discussion? All in favor, signify by saying aye. I'd like to talk about one of the individuals that retired, Mr. Garland. He was our agriculture teacher at the high school for the last 35 years. He currently was running the only agricultural program in Lake County still, which we're proud of. He did a fantastic job. His students loved him. He did so many extra things for kids. He made it fun to be part of his classes. Lots of kids took his classes that had weren't going to be farmers, or had nothing to do with agriculture, just to have his classes. He did things like raise fish, and they would cook them at the end. And he had a greenhouse out there. He did things with. He just went over the edge with everything he could to help the students understand and to make agriculture fun and make them understand that it wasn't just going out and farming and planting corn. So we're surely going to miss it. We have somebody else's replacement. Is that what I'm hearing?
On the agenda tonight, yes.
Okay.
Actually, one of his students.
That says something right there. That's good to hear. All right. Next item on the agenda is approve the proposed return to learning plan. Mr. Anderson.
Check. There we go. All right, so while we get our technology hooked up, I will preface the overview of the plan that this has been a work in progress for the past 3 weeks. So I was hired July 1st, and then shortly thereafter, we started talking to teachers. We've had board meetings where we've had good presentations advocating whatever side that people stand in regards to the issues. We had an opportunity to meet one-on-one with members of the community who set appointments. We had feedback from our committee of people who were on the original committee last year who chimed in. We were able to get some feedback from some of our parent leaders throughout the community and our PTO organizations. Obviously, the board has had some input. We've got district administrators together. So the point is, there are a lot of people that have expressed their views, have presented articles and science that actually argue both sides of the debate. And all I can say is, you as a school board have the authority given to you by the governor of Indiana to implement the mitigation protocols. The only exceptions that you don't have discretion over are masks on buses, and through the end of August, currently there's no discretion in regards to quarantining of asymptomatic individuals. So in other words, if there were a positive case, by law, we do have to report the positive case, report the close contacts, and quarantine all close contacts, symptomatic or not symptomatic, at least through the end of August as per the governor. Everything else, you have discretion in regards to the mitigation measures. So we put together a culmination of the key points, what people are most concerned about, and then I took a few notes in hearing people speak tonight, so hopefully I can answer some of those questions as well. So to get started, face coverings and masks. The current plan calls for masks to be optional. There's no shame if you wear a mask, and there's no shame if you don't wear a mask. And that's the current stance. We've talked about the buses. We need a campaign in our community. If you're showing a COVID-like symptom, you need to stay home. If people will stay home and not spread whatever it is, then that saves a whole lot of other people potentially being quarantined. So, if you do demonstrate a COVID-like symptom and you don't stay home, upon arrival, if you're demonstrating a COVID-like symptom, you would immediately be masked, isolated, and sent home. You would have to fulfill a 10-day quarantine. In order to come back before the end of 10 days, you would need to get a negative COVID test result, and as well as your symptoms resolved, or get a medical doctor's official return to school and indicating it's not COVID and you're not contagious. For positive cases, contact tracing will be initiated. We'll call home to the parents of the students who are identified as close contacts. Close contacts are those individuals who are within 6 feet for 15 minutes or more in a 24-hour period of a positive case. In order to conduct contact tracing, we do need to implement seating charts in all of our classes, our lunchrooms, our buses. We maintain the rosters for our sports and our clubs. We keep attendance records. And if we need to, we can access video footage when that's available to make sure that we identify everybody that we need to. So, a quarantine period for a positive case is 10 days, and symptoms must resolve in order to return. Close contacts. So we already just talked about symptoms or not, there's a quarantine period. The gold standard is 14 days. That doesn't go away. However, the guidelines do indicate that you may return within 10 days without a test, and you continue to monitor, or you could return after 7 days if you take a PCR test on day 5, 6, or 7 and it comes back negative. You can then return on day 8. I do know that the board is keeping an open mind about the quarantine process for close contacts, and every 2 weeks before board meetings we'll reassess the local data and continue to monitor that regarding quarantine, but for now it's a non-negotiable as per the governor's order. Athletics will continue to closely monitor and respond accordingly. I see that our athletic director is in the house, and she is on top of every protocol, and if there's concern, they have learned lessons from this past year, and they have options to help mitigate as needed. We will also follow the guidance of our athletic conference as well as the state athletic organization. Our back-to-school nights throughout the district are scheduled to full steam ahead. Kids and parents are welcome to attend. That's a big deal in the life of a kid, to walk into the school before the school year starts, find out where their class is, and just get a feel for the environment. It's exciting, and when parents can be a part of that. Again, we go through our community, we don't see that, so those that feel comfortable coming and showing up to do that, we want to provide that opportunity. Field trips, those are great experiences for kids, and again, as long as we don't have a need for concern regarding to postpone or cancel those, we want to run them. We do have to adhere to the venue requirements of wherever the kids are visiting, so if there are more stricter guidelines, such as mask wearing at all times while we're at the venue, we have to acquiesce to those rules. That's just a given. But in the meantime, we do plan to run field trips. I heard vaccinations from a speaker, so I did pop this into the slide. The school district stance is we remain neutral on that topic. It's a family choice, it's a personal choice, whether to not become vaccinated. It's not a requirement of our district, and we don't sway people one way or the other. We can provide information that is out there, tell people where to find it, but at the end of the day, they make their own choice and draw their own conclusions. Cleaning and hygiene, again, many of the same protocols that we had available this past year. Hand sanitizer, every opportunity that you go throughout the school. We have cleaning supplies available, especially at the secondary level. For those who are more conscientious and want more regular cleaning, we have materials to be able to do that. Water fountains will be shut off, but kids may bring water bottles. We have our water bottle filling stations that will remain open. And in our daily protocols from the facilities. We do encourage hand washing as much as possible. That's just a good common practice to begin with. It helps to minimize spread of any kind of virus, not just COVID-19. So keeping all of those. And then finally, the heart and soul of whatever plan that we have needs to be remain flexible. So there's a lot of data that is out there, but we're in Lowell, Indiana, and we keep track of our data here in Lowell, Indiana, and in our schools, and we're closely monitoring on a daily basis. If we get a positive case, we're going to keep track of that. We're going to keep track of the close contacts. We're going to ask questions like, okay, did the close contacts go on and did they become COVID positive? Or are they going through the quarantine period and they're returning healthy and never having developed COVID? If someone does develop COVID, well, what was the setting? Was athletics involved? Were they in group learning? Did we believe that the situation where the close contacts were all at lunch? So many factors that need to be studied and considered when contemplating, okay, do we need to apply another measure of mitigation to prevent our schools from closing and to keep our school community safe? I did hear something in regards to if students don't feel comfortable coming to school under these guidelines, are there e-learning options? And at a state level, return to in-person learning is the protocol. So we're expecting all people to come back. That's the enrollment. If there's an extenuating circumstance where there's a chronic health condition, we would need for those families to contact an administrator. We would need to have a face-to-face sit down, review the medical documentation, even speak to the doctor before we come to the conclusion, can we provide any accommodations necessary for the child to remain safely in school given the condition, or do we need to discuss other potential accommodations? So that would be on a case-by-case basis. Otherwise, all kids are expected to return. In regards to those that are under quarantine, each grade band, elementary, middle school, high school, have established protocols. In a nutshell, teachers post assignments, they are expected to have at some point reach out to the child or the family to touch base, any questions, and have an opportunity to make up any missed work. But again, the resources, the lessons would be posted online. So as of tonight, that's the overview, and the recommendation is to approve this return to learn plan as presented tonight, knowing that on an ongoing basis at our board meetings, we will continue to update the board, present local data of how things are going, be transparent with the community, post that information on our website as well, and then adjust the plan as is either mandated or as warranted by the data that we see.
So moved. Motion and a second, any further discussion from the board? All in favor signify by saying aye. Those opposed, same. Motion carries. New business, approve the solicitation of bids for snow removal. Dana.
Yes, it's August, and yes, we're talking snow, so, I'm asking the board for permission to go out for our snow bids for the snowy season around the corner.
Motion second, all in favor signify by saying aye. Opposed, same. Motion carries. Number 2, under new business, approve the multimedia broadcasting operating agreement for the 2021-2022 football season between Tri Creek Schools Corporation and Region Radio Sports Network LLC.
I don't need to talk much, you have any questions?
It's always fun to be able to watch the games.
Yeah,
TV.
it's really a renewal contract, student-centric. Our kids are the ones involved in the broadcasting, and they combine that with their classroom, media presentations, so it's good all the way around. It's not a moneymaker for us at all, but it's good for grandparents in Texas, or folks that get together after the game, so that's why we're doing
Motion is second, all in favor signify by saying aye. Those opposed, same. Number 3, approve the request for cash change bank at Bull Middle School amount of $1,000 for the 21-22 school year, various extracurricular activities. Dan.
Yearly thing that we ask for to support our extracurricular activities throughout the year.
Motion is second, any further discussion, all in favor signify by saying aye. All same. Number 4, accept the donation from Jody Elher of Lowell, Indiana, in the form of a 2005 Volkswagen Jetta, valued at $700 to provide hands-on learning experience for Lowell High School vocational automotive students. Motion is second, all in favor signify by saying aye. Those opposed, same. I'd like to thank Ms. Herb. We often have cars donated to our automotive programs, it really helps the students. They should come thank us at some point during the year. I really appreciate that. All right, that's the last item on the agenda. I'd like to announce the first student school day is Tuesday, August 17th. I believe the next board meeting is the 25th. 26th. Any questions from the board? Parents, anything else?
I hope everybody, I hope this works. There we go. No, I hope everybody is getting excited to return to school. I know that, it's important for people to do their civic duty and to exercise the right to come to board meetings. And, it's been good to hear people's perspective, and we just need to always keep in mind we work together for the good of our community, and we strive to do that. So I think it's been a very positive environment here tonight, and just hope that continues.
Thank you. Meeting adjourned.